Hunter, you need to really chill. I can tell you're probably on your period or something, but just let me get a word in, okay? So pretty much women will say they want a man to cry in front of them because they think it's what men want to hear. So and they may genuinely believe that they want a man to cry in front of them. But once they genuinely experience it and realize that it's not very it's kind of disgusting and very, very weak of them, it oftentimes results in them leaving, and we see what happens with you and your wife.
Okay, so let me go ahead and translate. You have no evidence whatsoever that me being emotionally honest and vulnerable in front of my wife had any contributing factor whatsoever to the divorce. You're just clinging to that and repeating it to try to convince yourself it's true. I understand that you probably do the same thing as far as your father's love by repeating yourself over and over again that your dad loves you to just try to convince yourself that it's true. But again, shut the fuck up. You don't get to say just because this thing happened in the relationship and then the relationship ended, it's the fault of that thing.
So I heard recently that you and your wife got into divorce, and I was wondering, because I thought it was interesting because you like to promote a lot of, I suppose, you like to tell people about how they should date and why, and you give a lot of advice on things like that. So I just thought it was interesting that you give that type of advice, yet you still get in a divorce.
Do you think that having general advice on like dating and stuff, do you think that that means that you should be able to make a relationship work even if it's not really compatible? Like, would you acknowledge, for example, that some of the more red pill people like Andrew Tate or Sneeko, for example, they might talk a big game about how good they are with women, and they might be really good with women, but regardless of how good they are, they're not going to be able to like make a relationship work if you're ultimately not compatible. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I suppose I agree with that to an extent, but
So
wouldn't
then
you
it
try
could
to
veer
make
very
sure you
okay.
guys are
So if you agree
compatible
with it, well, hold
before
on.
you
Let me,
get
let me
married?
just finish my point really quickly. So if you agree with that, then it sounds like you're very easily able to recognize then that I can still give advice on these
Hold on,
issues.
hold on.
And hold on, no, I'm gonna finish first. Wait. I have never said that if you follow my advice, you are guaranteed to be married forever, my friends. None of this has been the case. I've only given general advice for how you should treat women and the general mindset you should have in regards to women, all of which, by the way, I still stand by. And also, there's a reason why the divorce itself is also amicable and we're not having some massive falling out or going to court or anything of the sort. So, regardless of how good you might be with women or how good of your advice might be, sometimes you can't force a relationship to work.
Right, but you always say that women should or men should be able to cry in front of women and they should be able to be emotional.
Yeah.
And like I think they should be able to show their emotion. But yeah, I think I heard you say once that you cry more than your wife or cry more than your kids.
Do you think my
I don't
wife
think
is,
that
wait,
is
do you think that we are divorcing because I cried?
no, I don't think that's fully the reason, but I feel like maybe subconsciously that might have been part of the reason why she may have left you. I'm not
Do
gonna
you,
assume, but
no, no, I know, but I'm asking you, so like, how, what about if it was like more traditional relationship where like the woman was crying a lot and then they got a divorce? Would you blame the woman for that, for crying a lot?
I think so to an extent because if a woman's crying all the time, she's probably very hard to be around.
Okay, I'm wondering because usually it's seen as like if a woman's crying, the man is like, I want to be chivalrous and like protect her and be there for her kind of thing. But then if a man's
To an
crying, it's
extent,
like, hold on, wait. And then if a man's crying, it's like, oh, you're just a fucking loser wimp. Why don't you just pull your shit together, bro? But I was just thinking it's interesting because when women cry, they actually release pheromones that specifically turn men off.
right, and
The goal
I
of
don't think
crying
I
is
did it,
not ever to
Hunter.
turn somebody on or like or it's like that doesn't make any sense. The point of it is that you should be able to be emotionally vulnerable and open with a partner. And I'm telling you right now that me being emotionally vulnerable with my partner was not the cause for the divorce whatsoever. If anything, it's the reason
No,
why
but
think hold on. If anything, it's the reason why our communication remains as solid as it is and we are able to handle this so maturely.
okay, can I
He
talk
also
for just
noted
a
that I
second
am an
now?
ape and I should go
Yes,
F
people are
myself.
also saying you're faking your voice. Are you faking your voice?
No, I'm not faking my voice.
Okay,
Oh, okay, so can I maybe talk now without being interrupted for a second?
sure.
Okay, so I just wanted to say, okay, now I lost my train of thought. Okay, so I was just going to say that I don't think that the you crying all the time, or I don't know how much you were crying, but you probably cry more than the average man. I don't think that was the reason why your wife left you. I think it may have contributed to it because I think subconsciously she might have thought in the back of her head that you let your guard down too much, and I think that is part of the reason why she may have been. Maybe this man isn't because women want a man that is in control and usually dominant in most situations. So if a man is crying all the time, it just shows a lack of dominance and the ability to control your emotions. Because yes, you should be able
I
to cry, but you need to know when not to cry as
I
well.
know that's what I talk about, but if you're always suppressing your emotions in front of a partner, it tends to lead to regression in emotional intelligence, not actually a benefit. If you're
Right, right,
married,
right.
hold on, wait. If you're married to somebody, then you should be able to be emotionally vulnerable with that person. I agree that if every single day you're bawling your eyes out because your McDonald's order was late, then
But you said you cried
obviously
more than
there's
your
such a
wife.
thing. No, stop. Then obviously there is such a thing as being like a crybaby or being not emotionally intelligent. Clearly there's an issue there. But on average, if the time and the place is appropriate, you are emotionally vulnerable and you cry and you let your guard down, that's okay. And all you're really doing now is just you're saying like, I don't want to assume, but I'm assuming this is what happened. You have no proof of this. Nobody's saying this. And as far as all the
But I
evidence
have
available,
research that
me
proves
being
that.
more of emotionally available and vulnerable has, if anything, contributed to the amicable nature of the divorce ending.
Okay, let me ask you this one question. Who is the one who initiated the divorce? Like, can you just answer that? It might be too personal, but if you can, would you mind
Nobody
answering that?
initiated the divorce.
Oh,
We
somebody
both
always initiates it.
initiated conversations about it at different times. The last
Who
time we
was
had
the
a
first one?
conversation about it, Carissa initiated the conversation, and then we agreed that it was the best time to end the relationship because, again,
Okay,
we
so she was the one who initiated it. Okay.
no, she didn't. This is why I'm having a hard time talking to you because you're hearing things only that what you want to hear. Uh,
Well, it
initiating,
sounds like
hold
she
on, no,
initiated it.
shut the fuck up, dude. Initiating a conversation after we've already been having a consistent
Yes, but she was
conversation
the one thinking
about,
about it.
shut up.
You won't
Initiating
let
a,
me speak. I
shut
tried
the
saying something.
fuck
You
up or
spoke
I'm going
over
to
me.
mute you or just kick you out of the call. Shut it. Initiating a
You're
conversation
very emotional
all
today.
right, you're muted. Initiating a conversation to discuss something that we've already been discussing for years during our marriage is not my wife leaving me. That's called initiating one of the many conversations that we have had on this same issue, including conversations that I myself initiated many times as well. So, simply initiating a conversation and then amicably agreeing is what happened. Just if you initiate the conversation does not mean you initiated the divorce. All right, so you're unmuted now.
Okay, so I can kind of tell from the way you're talking that this is a kind of touchy subject for you, and I apologize. I didn't mean to make you upset. I was just
It's
trying
not a
to
touchy subject.
talk.
It's that you're being
Well,
incredibly
you're
bad
getting
faith
very
and
emotional about
dishonest.
it.
Hold on, no. It's that you're being very no. I'm not being emotional. I'm getting frustrated and I need to raise my voice because you don't know how to stop being bad faith and weaselly.
But I'm just wondering, like, why would you marry somebody that you weren't compatible with? That's what I'm trying to understand. Because if you marry somebody, you should be at the point where you know that that's somebody you want to be with for the rest of your life.
Do you
You know
recognize
that that's somebody.
so do you think that okay, how do you mind if I ask how old you are?
I am 19 years old.
Okay, so are you the same person? Are you the same as you were when you were like 14 years old?
I'd say I'm not entirely the same, but
Right.
I've
You
shared a
still
lot of the
like
same
keep bits and
traits.
pieces. Like you can look back at yourself and see where like that was you also, but you can also tell how you have changed and the way you think about things is a lot different now, right?
To an extent, I
Okay,
suppose.
cool. And have you ever maybe like had a crush on somebody when you were really young, or maybe you look back now that you're 19, and you look back at like the girl you had a crush on the first time, and you realize like, wow, she was actually like not my type at all. Has that ever
Not
happened to you?
really. Not really, not really, no.
Really, you don't ever look back at someone you had a crush on in your younger days and realize how much they really weren't your type compared to now?
I don't think so, no. Most of the girls that I've liked, I've stayed pretty consistent in that, so Maybe
Okay,
that's
I don't
different for
think
other
that's
people,
true, or you're just too young and you haven't experienced that yet. But
no,
regardless, the point that I'm getting at is when you're first of all when you're an adult, and second of all, like years and years of being together, people change, dude. Me and Carissa were very compatible at first, and I also think that it was the right decision for us to be married for the time that we were. I think that that was the right move at the time. But sometimes people change, and sometimes people become less compatible. And again, it is a mature thing to do to recognize that, so that we can go forward and make the best of this situation we have, rather than just sticking with something that might not be the best for anybody, just for the sake of looking good or I don't know, pleasing you.
I don't know. It just seems like from what I'm hearing, and I hear what you're saying, but it just sounds like me when I got in my first breakup, when my girlfriend broke up with me. I was like, "Oh yeah, we aren't compatible. We changed over time." It just felt like cope. It was like a mutual decision. It was cope for the fact that she left me
Some people
because
cope,
she
but
wasn't
other
happy with
people
me anymore.
don't. So okay, wait, well, hold on. Some people, of course, are going to cope and be like, "No, we agreed on the decision," even though it was like the girl's decision. I get that, but at the same time, that also is the case sometimes. So you can't just assume it's a
I,
cope every time. In my case,
but that's what
that
it
was
sounds
hold
like
on,
from
stop. In
hearing
my
what you
case,
said.
that was the case, and now you clearly weren't here for long. But my ex-wife was on stream earlier, my friend, saying the same thing I'm saying.
Right. I understand that to an extent. It just seems like you're saying like all these things to try to deal with the fact that she left you, and it's fine,
hmm
but it just
Do you feel like maybe you kind of have this belief or this feeling in your stomach that she left me, and maybe you, for whatever reason, don't like me or don't agree with some of the things I've said, and you kind of feel like that would be more compatible for your sort of view of me? Do you feel
not
like
at
maybe
all.
you're just sort of clinging to that? Because I'm telling you every single thing that contradicts the dumb shit you're saying, and also my ex-wife has said it too, and you're still saying like, well, I just feel like you're coping. Do you think maybe this is a problem for you?
Wait, what did you say?
I'm saying, regardless of all the evidence, which is very clear that this was a mutual decision and an amicable divorce, you're still clinging to this dumb fuck idea that somehow actually she left me and I'm coping, etc., etc. I'm wondering if maybe is this a problem with you rather than with me? Maybe this is your issue with not being able to
I,
actually take into account factual information.
I don't necessarily have a problem with you as a person. I disagree with some of your takes that men shouldn't be crying all the time. I feel like that's not a very healthy thing to do, and I feel like your situation was a prime example of why crying all the time isn't healthy. Because it may
So
work
you
for
just
a while,
confirmed
but
my
when
point. You actually just proved my point. You said you don't agree with my advice that men should be
but
able
it's
to
not
cry.
because I
Hold on,
don't
no, no,
like you.
no,
It's
no, no,
because
no, no,
from
no, no,
my
no. I know it's
experience,
not. It's not. You don't even realize it though. That's what's funny is you already disagree with my take that men should be able to to cry. First of all, I never said men should be crying all the time, never. But I'm not going to get on
you cry
semantic
more
thing.
than your
But
wife.
just generally, just crying if you want to cry. So like, you don't agree with that. Now my
I
marriage, hold on, stop. Now my marriage is ending, and it's compatible for you and your worldview and your sort of picture of me in your head that, well, Hunter said you should always cry, and he cried, and now he's getting a divorce. So I bet it's because he cried that he's getting the divorce. So for
I don't think
you,
it's because you
you're
cried.
clinging to this because it's the most compatible for
You're
your
strawmanning me
bias
right now.
against me. I'm not, oh, this is not a straw man, my friend. This is me articulating what you just demonstrated and did.
No, no, I was trying to say that men that cry all the time in front of their girlfriends, it oftentimes results in them breaking up.
That's a
And I've
lie.
never seen a
Says who?
situation where it actually
Says
lasts.
who?
Overly emotional men, they never are able to keep a
Overly
long-term
emotional is
relationship.
bad. Overly emotional is a bad thing, and men are overly emotional all the time in regards to anger and aggression too. So being
And that
overly
is why
emotional is a bad thing, but being emotional and being willing to be vulnerable, emotionally vulnerable, so long as the time and the place is appropriate, that takes strength, and that is what I say it's okay for men to do.
right, but I feel like even if that is true, and I do believe that it's true that you should be emotionally intelligent and all of that. I don't think that men should be crying like every single day because it gets to the point where
You
the
don't
women will
have to. It's more
definitely
about
be
just like if that is a way that you kind of naturally express your emotions and the time and the place appropriate, then like it should be okay for that. for you to
Why
do
does
that.
it have to be
No
in
one's
front of a
saying that
woman?
like you as a man must now cry 3 times a day. Here's your checklist. No, nobody's saying this. Nobody's saying you should be crying all the time. Nobody's saying also that if you are not personally like someone that kind of cries, that you should just force yourself to cry. No one's saying any of this bullshit. Jordan Peterson cries on stage all the fucking time, okay? Crying in and of itself is not necessarily a bad thing or a weak thing. That is all that I've argued. And you are clinging to this idea that because I cried in front of my wife, that's why she's leaving me. So you have a preconceived bias against me, and now
I
you
don't have
hear
a
this
bias.
information, you ignore all the facts that I'm giving you so that you can keep on clinging to the one biased view you have of me. You're like
I mean,
everything
from
wrong
what
with
I've
all
heard
of
from
these
you,
dumb fucks online.
okay, from what I've heard from you, she was the one who initiated it. You cry in front of her
She
all the
didn't
time.
initiate it. This is
Yes, she did. You said she was the one who started it. You said she was the first one to bring something up. Who
No,
is
I
the first one
didn't.
to
I
bring
didn't
something up?
say this. This is why I know you're not listening, my friend. You are
I
so
heard
bad
you say
faith.
that.
You're either bad faith or you're just really fucking stupid. Maybe both. Do you think
Okay,
that maybe
buddy.
since you're only 19 and you've clearly only had like 1 or 2 relationships that lasted more than like 3 hours, that you
Did you know
feel
that
that
I'm
maybe you're
actually married?
projecting a
So
little
I
bit
don't know
on
what you're
me?
talking about.
Do you
I
feel like
got
maybe you're
married
just
last
projecting
year.
a little bit?
I got married last year, and I'm in a very happy relationship right now. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay,
I'm
cool.
very happy with my wife right now, and I
That's
don't.
great. I hope that it remains so, you know? But again, keep in mind that you're the one repeatedly telling me that it's men crying leading to divorce, which is just bullshit. In reality, a big
It's men
reason
being
that
overly
no.
emotional.
In reality, a big reason that divorce even happens or women will initiate divorce is because they are not getting the emotional intimacy they need out of a partner, which is because men are socialized to suppress emotions, which leads to a lack of emotional intelligence. So it's actually your
Women,
mindset that leads to marriages falling apart far more than mine.
women may say that they want a man to cry in front of them all the
Yeah,
time
but you can't
because
trust women,
probably
right?
politically.
Yeah,
What?
right. Women only say what's politically correct. So we can't trust women. Or even if women say this,
He also
now we
wrote
can
it
just
Because when
down.
you see it
now we can just
demonstrated, it's
doubt it because
always
all women are just lying, you know?
no. Because when you see it demonstrated, it results in what we see with you. So obviously, men being overly emotional doesn't result in a long-term
No,
relationship. It
you are
never does.
so wrong and fallacious, and this is why I don't think you're bad faith. I think you're just fucking dumb. So do you
No,
realize that?
because
Hold on, wait. You realize that the exact same argument could be made right now that, hey, you know what, dude? I think it's bad when men eat bread. And guess what? I ate bread. I ate bread a lot in front of my
no,
wife, and now I'm getting
you're
divorced.
strawmanning me right now.
Clearly, it's because I ate bread. Unless you're able to prove the causal link between crying then leading to the divorce. You can't just say,
But I can
cause you
prove it. I can
cried,
prove
and
that if
now
I
cause divorce ends, therefore it's because you cried that the divorce ends. You don't get to do that. This is why you're stupid.
Hunter, you need to really chill. I can tell this is you're probably on your period or something, but
Mm-hmm.
just let me
Yeah.
let me get a word in, okay?
That's not
So,
very politically correct of you, but okay.
what do you mean?
Go ahead.
Okay. So, I don't remember exactly everything you said, but okay. So pretty much women will say they want a man to cry in front of them to because they think it's what men want to hear. So, and they may genuinely believe that they want a man to cry in front of them. But once they genuinely experience it and realize that it's not very it's kind of disgusting and very weak of them, it oftentimes results in them leaving, and
Mm-hmm.
we see what happens with you and your wife.
Okay, so let me go ahead and translate. You have no evidence whatsoever that me being emotionally honest and vulnerable in front of my wife had any contributing factor whatsoever to the divorce. You're just clinging to that and repeating it to try to convince yourself it's true. I understand that you probably do the same thing as far as your father's love by repeating yourself over and over again that your dad loves you to just try to convince yourself that it's true. But again, shut the fuck up. You don't get to say just because this thing happened in the relationship and then the relationship ended, it's the fault of that thing. Unless there is a causal link, unless Carissa came out and said, hey, you know what? Let me be honest. Hunter was always emotional and bawling his eyes out, and it was just a major turnoff, and it led to our relationship crumbling. Unless something like that comes out, you don't get to just make up the reason why the marriage ended. And especially, you don't get to just pull the idea or the reason that suits your bias against me even more.
Well, I guess I don't know what else to say. If you genuinely believe that you guys mutually decided to break up with each other, and it was nobody's fault but you guys growing distant like
Yeah,
every
I
middle school.
genuinely think that, I know it's a very, very shocking thing, but I genuinely do think that I have a better understanding of why my marriage ended than you. Random caller 123 who clearly doesn't even have a fully developed brain yet.
I can tell you this is very emotional for you, and
No, it's not
I'm sorry
emotional at
for
all.
the
I know that you keep, the thing is you keep falling back to like, oh, you're being emotional because I'm
Well,
insulting you
you're
and I'm
being very
roasting you and I'm
emotional.
making fun of you because you came on here and embarrassed yourself
You sound like
in
you're on the
front
verge
of
of tears right now.
500 plus people live, made a massive fool of yourself, and we just ended while you basically said, well, women might say that they want a man who's emotional, but women don't even know what's really good for them anyway. You have a very dumb fuck low view of women. You have a very bad view of men. Your mindset contributes to male suicidality, and now you're clinging to your bias because you dislike me or you disagree with my one take about men crying.
Well, who's the married one in this situation? Tell me that.
Thankfully, being mad doesn't actually have anything to do with whether or not you lost the debate. I'm okay being mad when you've been bad
I
faith
said who's
and
the married
stupid
one
the
right
entire
now.
time.
I said who's the married one. Who's the married one right now?
Well, on paper, I'm still married, and
But
my marriage
who's
lasted
technically
longer.
the one that's still together with
how many
a loving wife?
of both of us here whose marriage lasted longer?
I've been married.
Bye bye. Okay. Wow, 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 wow. How did he misunderstand what I was saying? You could have made the same argument that my wife left me because I ate bread.